What is up, everyone? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Jeremy, and today I'm going to be working on this mid-century blonde chest of drawers by Bassett. It's got, some missing veneer, failing finish, some little artwork here and there, but let's see how we can update this piece. Stay tuned and find out. First thing I'm going to do is give everything a nice clean with a 50-50 mixture of denatured alcohol and water. I found this piece on Facebook Marketplace, and I really like these blonde finishes because they're usually hiding mahogany wood underneath, which I find is so interesting that they've covered this dark wood with this faux blonde finish. But the top is laminate, so I'll be painting the body of the piece, but these drawer fronts I will be bringing back to wood. There was actually a very thin piece of this gold trim that was inset along the curved edge of those handles on the drawers, which some of them are missing, some of them are broken. So they left a little groove that those were attached into, and so I will be filling those with a Bondo so that I can sand that smooth before probably just painting that little edge of the drawers to match the rest of the dresser. So I've just mixed up the main putty of the Bondo with the hardener and making sure the color is nice and consistent before applying it to the dresser. So like I said, I'm just filling this little groove here with the Bondo, and I'll let this set and sand it smooth. Probably have to do another skim of a more fine filler after this just to make sure everything is nice and smooth, but this will get the bulk of this space filled. After letting that set, I will come back with my sander and sand it smooth before checking out if I need to do any additional fill. And as I suspected, there were some little bubbles in some areas that didn't get quite level, so I'm just using this very smooth wood filler to get these last little bits filled. Now addressing the base, I thought I recorded it, but I guess I didn't. But there was some missing veneer on the base, and so I decided to go ahead and fill that in with Bondo as well when I had it out previously for the drawers. And now that it's set and I'm letting the wood filler on those drawers dry once again, I am going to just sand this smooth. And probably once again, I am going to have to come back with some more fine wood filler just to get any additional unevenness and get that nice and filled so that it is perfectly smooth for my paint. And while I'm at it, I'll go ahead and scuff sand the rest of the dresser in preparation for primer and paint. To make sure I get good adhesion on this laminate top, I do want to make sure I'm knocking off as much of that shine as possible, so you can kind of see as I'm sanding here, it's getting dull and a little white. Part of that is powder that's coming up from the sanding, but once I wipe that down, you'll still see that it's a bit more dull than it was previously, and so that's going to help make sure, like I said, that the paint adheres well along with the primer that I'm going to use, which will help as well. To To clear off the sanding dust and any other contaminants and grease, I am using some denatured alcohol to wipe everything down, and this will make sure that the surface is nice and clean and ready for the primer. One more step before primer is coming back with another wood filler just to get the rest of any uneven spots on the base here. So I'm going to use a couple different fillers. First, I'm trying this plastic wood that's acetone based that dries really fast, and I was trying to move on to primer as soon as I could. So I was starting to work with this, but then it isn't as smooth as some of the other fillers that I have, and so it really wasn't doing what I wanted it to do. And also it was kind of starting to dry too fast. So I did end up switching over to a much smoother wood filler for the rest. While I let that additional filler dry on the base, I am going to go ahead and address the drawers here and get the rest of this smooth filler sanded down on all of these edges. And again, I was trying to get to primer this day, so as I'm waiting for the filler to dry on the base, I'm going to go ahead and prime the rest of the piece while that happens. So I'm using my favorite bin shellac primer. I use this a lot of times when I want to make sure I have really good adhesion or I'm worried about bleed through. So here I want really good adhesion. I also don't like to put this through my sprayer because it is shellac based, and so it's hard to clean up. So I just roll this on and then sand all the rolling marks smooth with a fine sanding pad before spraying my paint color. So I'm just going to do a couple of coats of this around the entire surface that I will be painting. And again, this is my go-to primer for any laminate tops. For the drawers, this finish was already kind of flaking off, so I'm going to skip the chemical stripper and I'm just going to dive straight into sanding. So I'm using an 80 grit to remove the finish, and then I'll work up through 120 and 180 before stain. For any missing veneer or chunks on the edges of the drawers, I'm going to use this wood epoxy by Quickwood. So it's just comes in it's two parts. There's like part of it is in the center and the outside is the second part, and I'll just cut off a bit that I want to use and make sure that it's mixed up nice and well before applying it and letting it set. And while that sets, I'll just go ahead and continue sanding the rest of the drawers, moving up again here, moving up to 120 and then 180 eventually. And for any areas that are still drying with the filler, I'll just sand around them and then come back and get the rest after they're done. Also found that this drawer had some loose dovetails, so I'll just apply some wood glue in these areas with my wood glue syringe and then clamp it up to dry, and it will be good as new. And finally, the wood filler is ready on the base, and so I'll go ahead and sand this smooth and then apply a couple of coats of the same primer that I used everywhere else. Before I forget, I need to come back and sand these little corners that I put some wood filler on, and then we can move on to staining the drawers. For stain, I chose Dark Walnut by Varathane in their Fast Dry oil-based formula. And I'll apply this just using a white lint-free cloth and getting it saturated all over the drawer fronts, and then wiping it back immediately and letting it dry. All right, the drawers are done and the primer is dry, so I will sand this with a soft sanding sponge just to knock back any bumps or roller texture or anything that landed in it while it was drying, and then I'll wipe off the sand dust and apply my paint. I've loaded the color Weather Vane by Wise Owl 1 hour enamel in my Wagner sprayer, and I'm just testing my spray pattern before applying the paint to the dresser. I like to start on the sides and do the top last. So I'll just spray about 6 to 8 inches away from the surface, overlapping my passes by 50% to ensure good coverage. I am putting a dark color over a white primer, so this will definitely take a few coats. I think I'll do about 3 on here just to make sure I have good coverage and also a durable thickness of paint so that it's nice and solid. When spraying the front trim pieces, I like to adjust my nozzle so that I have the small spray pattern. This is by putting it in the diagonal position, and this way the paint comes out in a circle, and you can get these small areas without too much overspray. I did 2 coats and then I let those dry overnight. The next morning I came out and just did a little light sand. You could see some areas here. There was some bumps. I think there might have been hair or something there that I sanded out, and then coming back in with my 3rd coat of paint. And last, I'll just get these edges with a foam brush, and I'll be painting them in the same color that I painted the rest of the dresser. And for any filled areas, I'll just touch them up with my paint touch-up kit for wood and blend those in before I apply my top coat. For my top coat, I will be using this Osmo Polyx oil. It's a hard wax oil. It's the first time I'm using it, but I've heard really great things about it. So it's an oil and wax mixture that soaks into the wood fibers and binds with them and really hardens them, I guess, in a way that repels water, and it's really durable. So we'll be trying this out. So just want to make sure it's nicely mixed, and then you'll apply 2 total coats after applying it, wiping it back, letting it dry for I think 8 to 12 hours, and then applying your 2nd coat and wiping that back. So I'll just do 1 coat today, and then I'll do another one tomorrow. Next, I'll just add some final touches. So I'll put some plastic feet on this just to just elevate it up off the ground a little bit and keep it from dragging and causing more damage. Also saving your floors. And I didn't mention this, but the paint doesn't require top coat. All of Wise Owl 1 hour enamel cures to a nice hard finish and doesn't require one. So after I had it all put together, I felt like something was missing. And the original, like I mentioned, had this gold trim along this curved handles. So I found some on Amazon and I thought, why not? So I'm applying this here. So just as adhesive backing that sticks to the surface. I made sure the surface was nice and clean and dry. And then I'll apply this, pressing it down very, very hard, making sure to get a nice contact between the surfaces so that they'll stick together really well. And then I'll just trim it to fit. This trim comes in matte and glossy. I opted for matte. I didn't want anything too shiny and reflective. I just wanted something that was going to give a little bit of interest to the fronts, and I think this worked out well. It has a little bit of a protective coating, so I'll just make sure to take that off, and there we are. All right, so let's look back at where we started. This mid-century blonde dresser had definitely seen some better days. It was still structurally sound and really solid, but it just needed a new look, and this is where we ended up. I'm really happy with this makeover. I think the combination of the charcoal and the walnut stain looks really great. I think that these gold accents really tie everything together, and I am really happy with the result. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to hit that like button, share with your friends, and leave me a comment. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.